The fluorescent lights of the Thompson Tech boardroom cast harsh shadows across 200 faces. Employees packed the space beyond capacity. Standing shoulder to shoulder along the walls, sitting on the floor near the door, phones held high, recording every moment. Darius Monroe
We need to address
stood at
this
the
issue now
microphone.
before it escalates further. I
45
understand the
years
urgency.
old,
Let's review
6
the
feet
options.
tall, wearing the same navy suit he'd worn to his wife's funeral 3 years ago. His hands rested calmly at his sides. No fidgeting, no trembling, just stillness. Behind him, security guards flanked Richard Hayes, the IT director's face red with rage and something else. Fear, perhaps, or the recognition that kingdoms built on lies eventually crumble. To the left, Victoria Kane sat frozen in her leather chair, her perfectly manicured hands gripping the armrests. The board VP who'd spent 6 years building an empire of ghost employees and wire transfers. Her empire was ending. Right now, in this room. Darius's voice cut through the silence, deep and measured. "My daughter asked me once," he said, each word deliberate, "Daddy, why do you let them hurt you?" He paused, let the question hang in the air. Another pause. "This is why I had to wait." The camera froze, Darius's face calm as still water. Richard being escorted out, Victoria's world collapsing. 200 witnesses. The image held for 3 seconds, then cut to black. White text appeared 3 months earlier. Monday morning, 5:43 a.m. The parking lot of Thompson Tech stretched empty and dark except for one vehicle. A 2009 Honda Civic silver paint faded to gray parked in the far corner under a broken streetlight. The driver's seat held Darius Monroe, head tilted back. Eyes closed, stealing 15 minutes of sleep before the day began. The alarm on his phone shattered the quiet. Not a gentle chime. A sharp, insistent buzz that jolted him awake with the efficiency of cold water. He sat up, rubbed his face with both hands, and checked the time. 5:45, right on schedule. Inside the car, evidence of a life lived in margins. Fast food napkins stuffed in the cup holders. A child's drawing taped to the dashboard, butterflies in crayon, the colors bright against the gray morning. A photo tucked into the sun visor. A woman with kind eyes and a smile that could light up rooms. Naomi, gone 3 years but still present in every decision he made. Darius pulled himself out of the car, grabbed his worn backpack, and walked toward the building. His work boots, resoled twice, made soft sounds against the asphalt. The security guard, an older black man named Wesley, looked up from his desk and nodded. "Monroe, you sleep in that car again?" "Just resting my eyes, Wes." Wesley's expression said he knew better but wouldn't press. "Coffee's fresh in the break room." "Appreciate you." Darius badged in at 5:51, 9 minutes before his shift officially started. He'd been arriving early for 18 months. Not because anyone asked, because the work required it, because 4 people's jobs somehow became his job, and the only way to survive was to start before dawn and leave after dark. The IT department occupied the 3rd floor, rows of server racks humming, their electric song cables running like veins through the walls, monitors glowing blue in the dim light. This was Darius's domain, the place where he was most competent, most needed, and somehow most invisible. He settled at his workstation, logged into the system, and pulled up the overnight alerts. 17 issues. He began working through them methodically, his fingers moving across the keyboard with the precision of someone who'd done this 10,000 times before. At 7:15, other employees began trickling in. Greetings exchanged, coffee poured, the office slowly waking up. Darius kept his head down, kept working. By 8 a.m., he'd cleared 14 of the 17 issues. The remaining 3 required server access, which meant waiting for Richard Hayes to arrive and unlock the system. Richard didn't show up until 9:30. The IT director swept into the department like he owned the air itself. 6'2", perpetually tanned from weekend golf trips, wearing a suit that cost more than Darius made in a month. He carried a Starbucks cup in one hand and his phone in the other, barely glancing at his team as he passed. "Monroe!" he called out without looking up from his screen. "Conference room, 5 minutes." Darius closed his laptop and stood. Around him, other technicians exchanged glances. Conference room meetings with Richard never went well for anyone. The conference room was glass-walled, visible to the entire floor. Richard liked it that way, like the theater of management, the performance of power. He sat at the head of the table, Darius across from him, and between them the weight of 18 months of exploitation neither acknowledged. "I need to talk to you about your performance." Richard began scrolling through something on his tablet. Darius waited, said nothing. "Your error rate is concerning, 76% accuracy. That's below standard." The number hung in the air like smoke. Darius knew his real numbers, 99.3% uptime, the highest in the company's 10-year history. But Richard's files said something different, and Richard's files were official. "I understand," Darius said quietly. "Do you—" Richard leaned back, steepled his fingers. "Because your attitude suggests otherwise. You're here on time, I'll give you that. But there's no initiative, no drive to improve." Darius's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Initiative. He'd been doing the work of 4 people for 18 months, but pointing that out would accomplish nothing except making Richard defensive. And defensive managers became vindictive managers. "I'll work on that," Darius said instead. "See that you do." Richard stood the meeting clearly over in his mind. "Oh, and Monroe, I'm going to need you to cover the weekend shift," Anderson called out. "I can't this weekend. My daughter has—" "Your daughter?" Richard's eyebrows rose. "This is the second time this month you've mentioned personal obligations. This is a professional environment, Monroe. We all have responsibilities outside work, but when you're here, you're here." The words landed like stones. Darius felt them settle in his chest, heavy and cold. He stood slowly, gathered his laptop. "Understood," he said. He walked back to his desk, aware of eyes following him through the glass walls, sat down, opened his laptop, continued working like nothing had happened, because what else could he do? Rage wouldn't pay Zara's medical bills. Pride wouldn't keep the lights on. At 11:47, his phone buzzed. A text from Rachel, his sister. "Zara's oncology appointment is Friday at 2 p.m. You still planning to take her?" Darius stared at the message. Friday, 2 days away. Zara's monthly checkup to ensure the leukemia stayed in remission. $420 they barely had, but infinitely worth it to hear the doctor say those words still clear. He needed 4 hours off, just 4 hours. He walked back to Richard's office, knocked on the doorframe. "What now, Monroe?" "I need to request 4 hours off on Friday, 2 to 6 p.m. It's for my daughter's medical appointment." Richard didn't even look up from his screen. "Denied. We're short-staffed. It's a cancer checkup. It's scheduled months in advance." "Then you should have requested it months in advance." "I did. I submitted the form in October." Now Richard looked up. "Did you—" "I don't see it in the system." Darius knew the form was there. He'd watched Richard click approve on the screen. But arguing would only make things worse. "I can make up the hours," Darius tried. "Work late, come in Saturday." "Monroe." Richard stood, walked around his desk, crossed his arms. "Let me be very clear. If you want part-time work, if you want a schedule that accommodates your personal life, there are plenty of companies that offer that. This isn't one of them." The office had gone quiet. Darius could feel eyes on them through the glass walls. 12 colleagues watching this humiliation unfold in real time. "We expect commitment here," Richard continued, his voice rising just enough to carry. "We expect people who put the company first. If you can't do that, maybe you should reconsider whether this is the right fit." Silence. Complete and total silence. Darius stood there for 5 seconds that felt like 5 hours. He didn't argue, didn't defend himself, didn't point out that he'd worked 60-hour weeks for 18 months straight without a single complaint. He just stood there, absorbing the words, letting them wash over him like rain. Then he nodded once, turned, walked back to his desk. Behind him, he heard Richard's door close. Around him, colleagues quickly looked away, suddenly very interested in their screens. But one voice whispered, barely audible, "Man's been here 18 months. Never missed a single day." Darius sat down, logged back into his system, kept working. At his elbow, his phone buzzed again. "Rachel." "Well," he typed back. "Can you take her? I'll pay you back for gas." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "You shouldn't have to choose between work and your daughter's health. This is wrong, I know, but I need this job." He set the phone face down and returned to the code on his screen. But before he did, he noticed something. A file name in his recent documents that he didn't remember opening: Personnel Audit Confidential. He clicked it. The file was locked, password protected, but the preview showed enough. Names, salaries, 4 senior IT specialists, each making $92,000 a year. Darius looked around the department, counted heads, 12 technicians total, including himself. No senior specialists, just technicians. He closed the file, logged the observation in the back of his mind, where he kept all the small inconsistencies that added up to something larger, something wrong. But what could he do about it? He was a 45-year-old black man in a tech company run by people who saw him as replaceable. Speaking up meant losing his job. Losing his job meant losing Zara's health insurance. So he stayed silent, did his work, survived. 6:43 p.m. Darius pulled into the parking lot of Rachel's apartment complex on the west side of Atlanta. The building was older but well-maintained, flower boxes in the windows. Children's bikes chained to the railings. Rachel met him at the door before he could knock. "She's been asking for you all day," Rachel said, stepping aside to let him in. Inside, Zara sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by colored pencils and paper. 7 years old, wearing a purple dress that was slightly too big, her hair in 2 puffs secured with butterfly clips. She looked up when Darius entered, and her entire face transformed. "Daddy!" She launched herself at him, and Darius caught her, lifted her up despite his exhausted muscles, held her tight. "Hey, baby girl, how was your day?" "Good, Aunt Rachel, let me draw pictures. Want to see?" He set her down, and she ran back to the table, returned with a piece of paper. A butterfly carefully colored in purple and gold, wings spread wide. "It's beautiful," Darius said, and meant it. "It's for you, for good luck." Zara pressed it into his hands. "Butterflies make wishes come true. That's what Mommy used to say." The mention of Naomi sent a familiar ache through Darius's chest. 3 years, and Zara still talked about her mother in present tense sometimes. Still believed in the small magics Naomi had woven into her worldview. Butterflies and wishes, and the idea that good things happen to good people. "Thank you, baby. I'll keep it safe." Rachel pulled him aside while Zara gathered her backpack. "You look terrible," she said bluntly. "When's the last time you ate?" "I had lunch." "When?" Darius thought. "Yesterday." "Darius!" Rachel's voice carried the weight of sisterly concern mixed with exasperation. "You can't keep doing this, skipping meals, working yourself into the ground." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're killing yourself, and for what? A company that treats you like garbage. For her." Darius nodded towards Zara. "For insurance, for the checkups, for a chance at something better." Rachel softened. "I know, but there's got to be another way. If you find it, let me know." They drove home in Darius's Civic, Zara chattering about her day, about the book she was reading, about whether they could get a cat. Darius listened, made the right sounds of agreement and interest, but his mind kept drifting back to Richard's words. "If you want part-time work, find another company." "Daddy!" He glanced in the rearview mirror. Zara was looking at him with those 2 knowing eyes. "Yeah, baby. Did you do something wrong at work?" The question landed like a punch. "No. Why do you ask?" "You look sad. You only look sad when work is bad." Darius pulled into their apartment complex, a modest 2-bedroom in a neighborhood that was safe enough, affordable enough. He parked, turned to face his daughter. "Sometimes," he said carefully, "you can do everything right and still have hard days. That's not wrong. That's just life. But if you do everything right, shouldn't good things happen? God. He wanted to believe that. Wanted to tell her, yes, the universe was fair effort equaled reward. But Naomi had done everything right too, and she'd still died on I-85 when a drunk driver crossed the median at 2 in the afternoon. Good things do happen, he said instead. I've got you, don't I? Zara smiled, and for a moment the weight lifted. Inside their apartment, Darius microwaved dinner. Frozen meals, 2 for $5. Zara got the chicken nuggets. He had the pasta, though he gave her half of it when she asked. They ate at their small table, the butterfly drawing between them. After dinner, after bath time, after 2 stories and 3 glasses of water and 1 trip to the bathroom, Darius tucked Zara into bed. She looked up at him in the dim light from her nightlight. Daddy? I love you. I love you too, baby girl, more than anything. More than work. The question hung in the air. Darius kissed her forehead. More than everything in the whole world combined. Zara smiled satisfied and rolled over. Within minutes, her breathing deepened into sleep. Darius stood there for a long moment watching his daughter sleep and felt the weight of every decision he'd made since Naomi died. The job he couldn't leave, the hours he couldn't refuse, the 4 hours he couldn't take to bring his daughter to the doctor. He walked to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator. A gallon of milk for Zara, 3 eggs, half a loaf of bread that would be stale by morning. His paycheck came Friday. Rent was due Tuesday. Zara's medication cost $180 a month. The math didn't work, but he made it work anyway through sacrifice and stubbornness and the quiet certainty that failure wasn't an option. His phone buzzed, an email. He almost ignored it, but the subject line caught his eye. System maintenance alert. He opened it. Standard notification about scheduled maintenance, but at the bottom, buried in the automated signature, another file attachment. Personnel audit final.pdf. Darius clicked it. The file opened. 4 names, 4 salaries. 4 senior IT specialists who, according to this document, worked in his department. Marcus Williams, salary $92,000. David Patterson, salary $92,000. Jerome Washington, salary $92,000. Kevin Hughes, salary $92,000. Total $368,000 per year, for positions that didn't exist, for work that Darius was doing alone. He read it twice, 3 times, let the implications settle. Richard Hayes was embezzling, creating ghost employees and pocketing their salaries, and Darius, the only actual person doing the work, was being paid $38,000, while being told he wasn't good enough. 18 months. 18 months of this. Darius closed the file, sat in the dark kitchen. The butterfly drawing Zara had given him lay on the table, purple and gold wings spread wide. Butterflies make wishes come true. He picked up his phone, stared at it. Who could he tell? HR reported to Richard. His manager was Richard. The system was designed to protect people like Richard, not people like him. But he saved the file anyway, downloaded it to his personal cloud, created a backup, because maybe somewhere, somehow, someone would care that a father was being exploited while trying to keep his daughter alive. He went to bed at midnight, had to be up at 5 a.m. to do it all again. In the darkness, he heard Zara's voice from earlier. If you do everything right, shouldn't good things happen? He still didn't have an answer. Wednesday morning, 5:45 a.m. The Thompson Tech parking lot held 2 vehicles now. Darius's Civic in its usual corner, and a black Tesla parked near the entrance, its owner already inside the building. Evelyn Harper, CEO of Thompson Tech, stood in the 3rd-floor break room making coffee. 48 years old, gray streaks in her dark hair that she refused to dye, wearing jeans and a blazer because board meetings weren't until 9. She'd been arriving early for 3 months now, ever since the quarterly reports showed numbers that didn't quite add up. The elevator dinged. She glanced over, expecting security. Instead, Darius Monroe stepped out, backpack over one shoulder, already looking tired at this hour of the morning. Their eyes met briefly. Darius nodded, polite but distant. Evelyn nodded back, watched him disappear into the IT department. She'd noticed him before. Hard not to. The man arrived before sunrise and left after sunset 6 days a week. Evelyn knew because she checked the badge logs. Darius Monroe, IT technician, had more hours logged than anyone else in his department. More than anyone in the entire company, actually. She poured her coffee and walked to her office, but the curiosity lingered. She pulled up the personnel files, found Darius's profile. Education bachelor's in computer science, Georgia Tech. Impressive. Experience 8 years at IBM before Thompson Tech. Solid. Performance reviews 76% accuracy. Needs improvement. That last line nagged at her. Someone working those hours with that background performing at 76%. It didn't add up. She opened the IT department budget, scrolled through the line items. 12 technicians at various pay grades, 4 senior IT specialists at $92,000 each. That seemed high for a department this size. She cross-referenced the names with the badge logs. Marcus Williams, no badge activity in 18 months. David Patterson, no badge activity in 18 months. Jerome Washington, no badge activity in 18 months. Kevin Hughes, no badge activity in 18 months. Evelyn leaned back in her chair. Read the data again. 4 employees being paid nearly $100,000 each, with no record of ever entering the building. She pulled the system uptime reports, 99.3% over the last 18 months, the highest in company history. She checked who was responsible for that uptime. Darius Monroe, sole technician on overnight issues, sole technician on weekend emergencies. Sole technician listed on 97% of resolved tickets. One man doing the work of 4 people who didn't exist. Evelyn's stomach tightened. She'd built this company from nothing. 16 years of 18-hour days and sacrificed relationships and the absolute conviction that she was creating something better, something fair. After her father died, after the factory owner who'd stolen his pension walked away rich, while her family buried a 52-year-old man whose heart gave out from stress, Evelyn had sworn she'd never let that happen to anyone under her watch. And here it was, happening, under her watch. She picked up her phone, dialed HR. Martha, Evelyn, I need you to pull every performance review for Darius Monroe, every single one, and I need the raw data, not the summary reports. Of course, can I ask what this is regarding? An audit. She hung up, stood, walked to the window overlooking the city. Atlanta was waking up, sun breaking over the skyline, casting long shadows across the buildings. Somewhere out there, people were going to work trusting that their employers would treat them fairly, trusting the system. Darius Monroe had trusted the system, and the system had been stealing from him for 18 months. Evelyn's phone buzzed. Martha from HR. I have those files. Do you want me to send them? No, I'm coming down. The HR office occupied the second floor. Martha, 63 and nearing retirement, had worked for Thompson Tech since its founding. She handed Evelyn a folder thick with documents. Darius Monroe, everything we have. Evelyn sat in the small conference room and opened the folder, started reading. The real story emerged in the gaps between official reports. Performance review from Richard Hayes. Monroe shows adequate technical skills but lacks initiative. Recommend no raise. Actual system logs, Monroe resolved 847 tickets in 12 months. Next closest technician, 203. Performance review from Richard Hayes. Monroe's error rate remains concerning at 78%. Actual error logs, Monroe's error rate 0.7%. Industry standard 6%. Every review Richard filed painted a picture of mediocrity. Every piece of actual data showed excellence. Then Evelyn found the medical leave requests, 7 of them in 18 months, all denied by Richard Hayes. The reasons were always different, but the pattern was clear. Darius had a daughter who needed medical care, and Richard was systematically preventing him from providing it. The final piece, payroll records, 4 senior IT specialists. Direct deposits going to a single account, an account that cross-referenced to Richard Hayes' name. Evelyn closed the folder, sat in the silence of the conference room. Her hands were shaking with anger, not the hot, explosive kind, the cold, calculating kind that came from seeing something so fundamentally wrong that it demanded immediate correction. She pulled out her phone, typed a message to her assistant, "Clear my schedule. Cancel everything, I need the day." Then she called her lawyer. "Ben Evelyn Harper, I need you to put together a termination package for Richard Hayes, ATT director. I'm firing him today, and I need you to contact the FBI. We have an embezzlement case. Yes, I'm sure. How sure? $3.4 million, sure." She hung up, took a breath, picked up the phone again and dialed a number she rarely used, the building landlord for Darius Monroe's apartment complex. "Mr. Peterson, this is Evelyn Harper, CEO of Thompson Tech. I have an employee named Darius Monroe who rents Unit 2B. There's been an emergency and I need access to his apartment." "No, he's not hurt. It's a company matter." "Yes, I understand it's unusual. I'll take full responsibility." 20 minutes later, she had a key. 10:15 p.m. Darius pulled into his parking spot, killed the engine, and sat in the silence. 14 hours at work. 14 hours of pretending Richard Hayes wasn't stealing from him. Pretending the system wasn't broken. Pretending he had any power at all. He grabbed his backpack and walked toward his apartment. Noticed the light on in his kitchen window. Stopped. Zara was with Rachel tonight. The apartment should be dark. Darius's heart rate kicked up. He approached slowly, key ready, listening. Heard water running, dishes clinking. He unlocked the door, pushed it open. Someone was in his kitchen. He moved down the short hallway, boots heavy on the cheap linoleum. The kitchen light was on, warm and yellow. A woman stood at his sink, her back to him, washing his dishes. She wore jeans and a gray hoodie, dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Then she turned around. Evelyn Harper, CEO of Thompson Tech, standing in his kitchen at 10:15 on a Wednesday night, dishwater dripping from her hands. Darius froze completely, every muscle locked. His brain struggled to process what his eyes were seeing. "Mr. Monroe," Evelyn said quietly. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were red. "I know you weren't expecting me." "What?" His throat had gone dry. "What are you doing in my house?" Evelyn set down the plate she'd been washing, dried her hands on a dish towel. "Your landlord gave me the key. I told him it was an employee emergency. You broke into my home." "Yes." The simple admission hung between them. No excuses, no justification, just the truth. "Why?" Darius managed. Evelyn took a breath. "I came here to tell you the truth about what's been happening to you at work, about why you've been suffering." She paused. "And Darius, what I'm about to tell you will break your heart." The words should have sounded dramatic, rehearsed, but the way she said them, with her voice barely steady and her eyes glistening with unshed tears, they sounded like a confession. Darius's hands curled into fists at his sides, not from anger, from the need to hold on to something solid while his world shifted beneath him. "How did you even get in here?" The question came out harder than intended. "I told you, the landlord. I said it was a company emergency and I needed immediate access." "That's not legal." "I know. You're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar corporation. You don't do house calls. You don't wash employees' dishes." His voice was rising now, 3 years of controlled emotion starting to crack. "So what is this really about?" Evelyn flinched, but she didn't look away. "You're right. I don't do house calls. I've spent 16 years building that company from the ground up, and somewhere along the way I stopped seeing the people who make it run." She gestured toward his small kitchen table. "Please, sit down." "I'd rather stand." "Darius, it's Mr. Monroe to you," he interrupted coldly. "You've never spoken to me before today. You walk past me in the halls like I'm furniture. Now you're in my kitchen acting like we know each other." The silence stretched. Evelyn's composure cracked just slightly. "You're right," she said softly. "I've been blind, willfully blind." She pulled out a chair and sat down. Her shoulders singed, the CEO mask slipping to reveal something raw underneath. "2 days ago," she began, I was going through financial records, things that didn't add up. I started digging, and what I found... She looked up at him. Darius, do you know why you work 18-hour shifts while other technicians work 8? His jaw tightened. Because Richard says we're short-staffed. You're not short-staffed. Evelyn's voice shook now. Richard's been creating ghost employees. 4 senior IT specialists who don't exist. He's been collecting their salaries for 18 months. $368,000 a year. And making you cover the workload alone. The words hit Darius like a physical blow. He gripped the back of the chair in front of him. That's not... There's more. Evelyn's voice cracked. Your performance reviews, the ones that keep you from getting promoted, from getting raises. Richard's been falsifying them. I saw your real numbers, Darius. 99.3% system uptime, 0.7% error rate. You're the best technician this company has ever had. Darius felt his legs go weak. He sank into the chair across from her. Why? The word came out broken. Why would he do that? Because you're good at your job. Too good. If corporate saw your real performance, they'd promote you immediately. You'd be making what you deserve. And Richard would lose his cash cow. Someone skilled enough to do the work of 4 people without complaining, without asking questions, without... She stopped, wiped at her eyes. Darius's hands curled into fists on the table. 18 months. 18 months of killing himself, of missing Zara's school events and doctor's appointments, of collapsing on his couch every night too exhausted to even make it to his bedroom. 18 months of believing he wasn't good enough. How long have you known? The question came out rough, accusatory. I found out 2 days ago, Monday morning. I confronted Richard yesterday. He denied everything, tried to spin it as a misunderstanding. Her eyes flashed with cold anger. So I brought in our audit team. By yesterday afternoon, I had proof, emails, payroll records, everything. And you fired him. I suspended him pending investigation. But Darius... She leaned forward. It's not just Richard. I've been going through records all night. This is happening in other departments too. Senior managers exploiting employees, skimming budgets, falsifying reviews. And I... Her voice broke completely. I built a system that allowed this to happen. I was so focused on quarterly earnings and shareholder value that I stopped seeing the people bleeding to make those numbers possible. Darius stared at her. In all the months he'd worked at Thompson Tech, he'd never seen Evelyn Harper as anything but untouchable, cold, powerful. The woman who walked through the halls like she owned the air itself. But sitting across from him now, with dark circles under her eyes and guilt written across every feature, she looked devastatingly human. Why are you telling me this? He asked quietly. Why come to my house? Why wash my dishes? Evelyn's eyes filled with fresh tears. Because when I saw your file, when I saw what's been done to you, I realized something. You have a daughter, Darius, a 7-year-old girl who barely sees her father because he's too busy being exploited by my company. She paused, steadied her voice. And your wife. She passed away 3 years ago. Darius nodded stiffly, didn't trust himself to speak. You've been raising Zara alone while working yourself to death for people who don't appreciate you. And I... She wiped at her eyes again. I sat in my office last night looking at your address and I thought about calling, sending an email, having HR schedule a meeting, but none of that felt like enough. She gestured around his modest kitchen, at the dishes she'd washed, the floor she'd swept, the coffee maker she'd cleaned. I know this doesn't fix anything. I know showing up here is intrusive and probably insane, but I needed you to see that I know. That I'm not hiding behind my title or my lawyers, that I'm willing to stand in your kitchen and face what my company has done to you. Darius felt something crack open in his chest. Anger, yes. But underneath it, something else. Something that felt dangerously close to hope. What happens now? He asked. Evelyn straightened. The CEO returned just for a moment. Now I make this right. Before she could continue, they both heard it. The front door opening, small footsteps in the hallway. Daddy! Darius's heart stopped. Zara wasn't supposed to be home until morning. The footsteps came closer. Then Zara appeared in the kitchen doorway wearing her purple pajamas, dragging Mr. Hoppy, her worn, stuffed rabbit. Behind her, Rachel looked apologetic. "Sorry, Dee. She woke up with a stomachache and wanted to come home." Zara's eyes went wide as she spotted Evelyn. "Daddy, who's that?" Every word Darius had been about to say evaporated. How did you explain this? How did you tell your 7-year-old daughter that her father's CEO was standing in their kitchen at 10:30 at night because she'd just discovered systematic exploitation? "This is Ms. Harper," he managed. "She works at my company." Zara tilted her head, studying Evelyn with the unfiltered curiosity only children possessed. "How come she's here? Are you having a meeting?" Evelyn knelt down, bringing herself to Zara's eye level. Up close, Darius could see she'd been crying, could see the exhaustion in every line of her face. "Hi, Zara," Evelyn said gently. "Your dad and I were just talking about work. I'm sorry if I interrupted your bedtime." "It's okay. I don't feel good." Zara clutched Mr. Hoppy tighter. Then, with the brutal honesty of childhood, "You're pretty. Are you Daddy's friend?" Something flickered across Evelyn's face. Surprise. Then a softness Darius had never seen before. "I'd like to be," Evelyn said, "if that's okay with you." Zara nodded seriously. Then, devastating in its simplicity, "Daddy doesn't have many friends. He's always too tired." The words hit Darius like a physical blow. Out of the mouths of children came truths you couldn't escape, couldn't deny. His daughter had just summed up 3 years of his life in 8 words. Rachel cleared her throat. "I'll get her some ginger ale. Darius, can I talk to you for a second?" He followed his sister into the living room, leaving Evelyn and Zara in the kitchen. Through the doorway, he could see Evelyn showing Zara something on her phone. Pictures, probably, judging by Zara's delighted giggles. "What's going on?" Rachel whispered urgently. "That's Evelyn Harper. The Evelyn Harper. Why is she in your house at 10:30 p.m.? It's complicated. Darius. She found out some things. About work. Bad things. She's trying to fix them." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "What kind of bad things? The kind that explain why I've been working myself to death for pennies." His sister's expression shifted from concern to fury. "Are you telling me they've been screwing you over for 18 months, apparently? Those absolute bastards." Rachel caught herself, glanced toward the kitchen where Zara was, lowered her voice. "And she came here to tell you that personally?" "Yeah." Rachel studied his face, really looked at him. "You like her?" "What? No. I don't even—" "Darius, I'm your sister. I know that look. She's my boss's boss's boss. She's way out of my league, and this isn't—" He struggled for words. "She's just trying to fix a corporate problem." Uh-huh. Rachel's expression said she knew better. "Corporate problems don't usually involve washing dishes in employees' kitchens at night." Darius didn't have an answer for that. They returned to find Zara and Evelyn sitting at the table, both drawing on the back of some paper Evelyn had pulled from her bag. Zara was explaining in elaborate detail the difference between regular butterflies and magic butterflies. "And the magic ones can grant wishes," Zara said seriously, "but only if you're really, really nice to people." "That's a good rule," Evelyn said, adding details to her own butterfly sketch. "What kind of wishes would you make?" Zara thought for a moment, crayon poised. "I'd wish for Daddy to not be so tired all the time, and maybe a puppy, but mostly the first one." Evelyn's hand stilled on the paper. She glanced up at Darius, and the look in her eyes made his chest physically ache. Raw emotion, understanding, and something else he couldn't quite name. Rachel touched his shoulder. "I'm going to head out. Call me tomorrow, okay?" After his sister left, Darius stood in the doorway watching his daughter and his CEO draw butterflies like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like Evelyn Harper hadn't just upended his entire understanding of his life. Like this was normal. Zara yawned, and Evelyn noticed immediately. "I think someone needs to get to bed," she said softly. "But I'm not sleepy." Zara protested even as another yawn betrayed her. Darius stepped forward. Come on, baby girl. Let's get you tucked in. Zara looked between Darius and Evelyn, her expression suddenly worried. Will you still be here when I wake up? Evelyn glanced at Darius, uncertainty crossing her face for the first time since she'd turned around at his sink. I don't know, sweetheart. I hope so, Zara said simply. Then I like you. After Darius put Zara to bed, complete with 3 stories and 2 glasses of water and 1 trip to the bathroom, he returned to find Evelyn carefully folding the butterfly drawing Zara had made. She'd set it aside separate from her own sketch. She's wonderful, Evelyn said quietly. You're raising an amazing kid. Thanks. Darius leaned against the counter, suddenly aware of how small his kitchen was, how close they were standing. She doesn't usually warm up to people that fast. Kids are good judges of character, or so I'm told. Evelyn smiled, but it was sad, distant. I don't have much experience with them. No kids of your own. No husband, no kids, no life outside work, really. She looked down at her hands. I'm 48 years old, and I can't remember the last time I sat down and drew butterflies with someone. Can't remember the last time anyone told me they liked me just because. Darius felt something shift in his chest. This wasn't the untouchable CEO anymore. This was just a woman who'd built walls so high she'd forgotten how to let people in. The job offer, he said slowly. Is it real, or is this some kind of corporate liability thing? It's real. Evelyn met his eyes. I've already drafted the paperwork. Senior Director of Operations, $115,000 a year, full benefits, reasonable hours. She paused. But Darius, I won't pressure you. If you want nothing to do with me or the company after this, I'll understand. I'll still make the changes. I'll still ensure you're compensated for what was done to you. But the choice is yours. Darius thought about Zara's words. Daddy doesn't have many friends. He's always too tired. He thought about 18 months of killing himself for nothing. 18 months of believing he wasn't good enough. And he thought about the woman standing in his kitchen, who could have sent an email or a lawyer but instead showed up to wash his dishes and face him like a human being. I'll think about it, he said finally. But I need time. It's a lot. Of course. Evelyn picked up her purse, moved toward the door, then paused, turned back. Darius, for what it's worth, I meant what I said about needing you. But more than that. She hesitated. Thank you for letting me sit with Zara tonight. I didn't realize how much I'd been missing until I saw it through her eyes. After she left, Darius stood in his quiet kitchen, staring at the butterfly drawing on his table. Purple and gold wings spread wide. Magic butterflies that grant wishes to people who are really, really nice. For the first time in 18 months, he felt something he'd almost forgotten. Hope. Thursday morning, 5:47 a.m. Darius sat in his car in the Thompson Tech parking lot, staring at the envelope Evelyn had left on his kitchen counter the night before, white, unmarked, sealed. He hadn't opened it yet, wasn't sure he was ready to. Inside that envelope was a choice: accept the promotion, step into a world he'd never imagined accessing. Or walk away, find another company, start over somewhere that didn't know his name or his struggle or the fact that he'd been systematically exploited for 18 months. His phone buzzed. Rachel, did you open it yet? Nomer D, you're killing me. What are you waiting for? Good question. What was he waiting for? Permission proof that last night wasn't some fever dream brought on by exhaustion and desperation. He picked up the envelope, turned it over in his hands. The paper was expensive, heavy stock, professional, real. He opened it. Inside 3 items. A check printed on Thompson Tech letterhead. Pay to the order of Darius Monroe. Amount $96,000 sounds. Memo line. Back compensation, 18 months differential. Darius stared at the number. $96,000. More money than he'd ever seen in one place. Enough to pay off Zara's medical bills. Enough to buy a car that didn't break down every other month. enough to breathe for the first time in 3 years. The second item, an employment contract, Senior Director of Operations. Annual salary $115,000. Benefits package including full medical dental vision. Vacation 4 weeks annually. Start date immediate pending acceptance. The third item, a handwritten note on plain paper. Darius, I know I can't undo 18 months of pain with a check and a contract. I know you have every right to walk away and never look back. But I'm asking you to stay, not for me. For the 11 other people I found today who are being exploited just like you were. They need someone who understands what they're going through, someone who's lived it. You asked me last night what happens now. The answer is whatever you decide. But I hope you'll give me a chance to prove that Thompson Tech can be what it should have been all along. Respectfully, Evelyn Harper. Darius read the note 3 times, looked at the check again, the contract, everything he'd been fighting for handed to him in a single envelope. But it wasn't just about him anymore. 11 other people, 11 other stories like his. How many of them had families, kids who needed medical care? Dreams deferred because someone in power decided their labor was worth stealing. He pulled out his phone, texted Rachel. I'm taking it. 3 dots appeared immediately. Hell yes. Proud of you, big brother. Then he texted Evelyn's number, which she'd written at the bottom of the note. I'll sign the contract. But I need to meet the other 11 first. Need to know their stories. The response came within 60 seconds. Come to my office, 8 a.m. They'll be there. Darius pocketed his phone, grabbed his backpack, and walked into the building. Wesley, the security guard, looked up from his desk. Monroe, you're early even for you. Big day, Wes. Everything all right? Darius paused, thought about it. Yeah, I think it might actually be. 8 a.m. Darius stood outside Evelyn's office on the executive floor, a place he'd never been before. The space was all glass and chrome floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Atlanta furniture that probably cost more than his car. Evelyn's assistant, a young woman with kind eyes, smiled at him. Mr. Monroe, she's expecting you. Go right in. He pushed open the door. The office was large but surprisingly spare. A desk, 2 chairs, a small conference table, and sitting around that table 11 people who looked just as confused as he felt. Evelyn stood when he entered. Darius, thank you for coming. Everyone, this is Darius Monroe, IT systems engineer. The first person I discovered was being systematically exploited. She gestured to the assembled group. Darius, meet the others. A black woman in her 50s wearing a custodial uniform raised her hand, tentatively. Gloria Patterson, night custodian. They've been paying me minimum wage for 3 years while billing clients for senior facility management at $40 an hour. A young man with work-worn hands. Carlos Mendoza, warehouse. My supervisor's been clocking ghost workers and making me do their shifts. A white woman with gray hair. Sarah Williams, accounting. They've been listing me as part-time while I work 50 hours a week. No benefits for 3 years. One by one, they introduced themselves. Maintenance workers, data entry clerks, a single mother working in the mailroom, a veteran with a prosthetic leg who'd been doing facilities work. Each with their own story of exploitation, falsified records, stolen wages. 11 people, 11 stories. And sitting there listening to them, Darius realized something profound. He wasn't alone. Had never been alone. The system that crushed him had crushed them too quietly, invisibly, counting on their silence and desperation to maintain itself. How much? He asked Evelyn. Total. How much was stolen from them? Evelyn's jaw tightened. $1.2 million over periods ranging from 18 months to 6 years. The number hung in the air. $1.2 million. Stolen from people who could least afford to lose it. Stolen by people who already had everything. Richard Hayes, Evelyn continued, was managing 4 departments. It was just one of them. He was creating ghost employees across all 4, pocketing their salaries, but he wasn't working alone. She pulled up a presentation on the screen behind her. A name appeared, Victoria Kane. Board VP. Victoria approved every ghost employee, every falsified report, every stolen dollar. She took 30%. Richard took the rest. Evelyn's voice was ice now, professional, controlled. I've referred both of them to the FBI. Criminal charges are pending, but that doesn't get you your money back, doesn't give you the years you lost. Gloria Patterson, the custodian, spoke up. Her voice shook. My daughter needed surgery 2 years ago. I couldn't afford it because I was making minimum wage. She's fine now. But those 2 years, tears spilled down her cheeks. We'll never get those back. Evelyn's composure cracked, just for a second. I know, and I'm sorry. I should have been paying attention. Should have been watching. This company was supposed to be different. So what now? Carlos asked. You fire them, give us checks, and we all pretend this didn't happen? No. Evelyn looked at Darius. Now we fix the system that allowed this. And I can't do that alone. I need people who understand what's broken, people who've lived through it. She turned back to the group. I'm offering each of you promotions, appropriate titles, appropriate pay, back pay for what was stolen. But more than that, I'm asking you to help me rebuild this company into something that actually works for the people who make it run. Silence. The 11 people exchanged glances. Why should we trust you? The question came from Marcus Webb, the veteran. No offense, ma'am, but you're the CEO. You've been the CEO this whole time. Why didn't you know? It was the question Darius had been thinking but hadn't asked. Evelyn didn't flinch from it. Because I stopped looking, she said simply. I was so focused on growth, on profits, on keeping the board happy that I forgot to walk the floors, forgot to talk to people who weren't executives. I built a company from the ground up, and then I lost sight of what made it worth building. She paused. My father was a factory worker, died at 52 because his boss stole his pension and worked him into an early grave. I swore I'd never be like that boss. But I became something worse. I became someone who didn't even notice when it was happening. The honesty in her voice was raw, unpolished, real. You want to know why you should trust me? Evelyn continued. You shouldn't, not yet. Trust is earned. But I'm asking for a chance to earn it. Help me fix this. Hold me accountable. Be the voices I should have been listening to all along. Gloria Patterson wiped her eyes. What kind of promotion are we talking about? For you, facilities director. $85,000 a year, direct report to me. You'll oversee all custodial and maintenance operations with full authority to set standards and wages. Gloria's mouth opened, closed. That's more than my husband makes. It's what the position should pay. It's what you should have been making all along. Evelyn went through each person, appropriate titles, appropriate compensation. By the end, some were crying. Others sat in stunned silence. There's one more thing, Evelyn said. I'm creating an employee oversight committee, independent, with the authority to audit any department anytime. And I want you 12 to chair it. Why us? Darius asked. Because you know what it looks like when the system fails. Because you won't let it happen again. That afternoon, 3 p.m., Darius was in his new office, still adjusting to the fact that he had an office when his phone rang. Evelyn, can you come to the conference room top floor? We have a situation. He found her standing at the window looking down at the parking lot. Her posture was rigid, tense. What's wrong? Victoria Kane just arrived. She's demanding a meeting with the full board. Claims she has evidence that I'm fabricating charges to cover up my own mismanagement. Is she insane? You have proof. She has lawyers, good ones, and 3 board members who've been her allies for years. Evelyn turned to face him. This isn't over, Darius. She's going to fight. And if she wins, if she convinces the board to remove me, everything we've started dies. What do you need me to do? I need you to be at that board meeting. I need them to hear from someone who lived through this. Darius's stomach dropped. Evelyn, I can't stand up in front of the board and... Yes, you can. Her voice was firm. You stood up to Richard. You stood up to a system designed to keep you silent. This is just 12 more people. 12 people who can fire you, who control the company. Then we make sure they understand what's at stake. The board meeting was scheduled for 5 p.m. 2 hours to prepare. 2 hours for Darius to figure out how to put 18 months of pain into words that would matter to people who'd never experienced it. He called Rachel. I need you to keep Zara tonight. I have something I have to do. Everything okay? I don't know yet. I'll call you after. At 4:45, Darius put on the navy suit he'd worn to Naomi's funeral, the only suit he owned, looked at himself in the men's room mirror, 45 years old, black man in corporate America, about to walk into a boardroom and tell powerful people they'd been complicit in his exploitation. His hands were shaking. He thought about Naomi, about what she'd say if she were here, probably something about courage not being the absence of fear but acting despite it. She'd always been better with words than him. He thought about Zara, about the butterfly drawing still taped to his dashboard, magic butterflies that grant wishes to people who are really, really nice. He thought about the 11 others, Gloria, who couldn't afford her daughter's surgery, Carlos, who'd been working double shifts for ghost employees, all of them counting on him to not screw this up. He straightened his tie, took a breath, walked to the elevator. The boardroom occupied the entire top floor. Massive table leather chairs, windows overlooking the city. 9 board members sat in their designated spots. Victoria Kane at one end, perfectly composed, flanked by 2 lawyers in expensive suits. Evelyn at the other end, alone except for her legal counsel and a laptop. And Darius standing by the door, trying not to look as terrified as he felt. The board chairman, an older white man named Robert Morrison, called the meeting to order. Ms. Kane has requested this emergency session to address serious allegations. Victoria, you have the floor. Victoria stood. She looked confident, powerful, like someone who'd never doubted her right to be in this room. Thank you, Robert. I've called this meeting because our CEO has made reckless accusations against me and Richard Hayes without due process. She's claiming embezzlement based on circumstantial evidence and the word of disgruntled employees. I believe she's trying to scapegoat us for her own financial mismanagement. She clicked a remote. A presentation appeared on the screen. Charts, graphs, financial data. Under Ms. Harper's leadership, this company has spent recklessly on unnecessary programs, employee benefits that exceed industry standards, wages that impact our competitive position. She's created a culture of entitlement, and now she's looking for someone to blame for the resulting budget issues. Murmurs around the table, some board members nodding. Victoria continued. I've reviewed the so-called evidence against me. It's thin, circumstantial, based on guilt by association. Yes, I approved payroll, that's my job, but I trusted department heads to verify their staff. If Richard Hayes was creating ghost employees, that's on him, not me. She sat down, looked directly at Evelyn, smiled. Robert Morrison turned to Evelyn. Ms. Harper, your response? Evelyn stood, clicked her own remote. A different presentation appeared. Victoria's correct that I approved increased employee benefits. I did so because our turnover was 40% annually. Our productivity was declining. Our reputation as an employer was abysmal. She advanced to the next slide. Since implementing these changes, turnover dropped to 8%. Productivity increased 23%, and our Glassdoor rating went from 2.1 stars to 4.6. Next slide. Bank records. These are wire transfers from Thompson Tech accounts to Victoria Kane's personal accounts. $2.1 million over 6 years, not salary, not bonuses. Direct deposits corresponding exactly to ghost employee payroll. The murmurs got louder. These, Evelyn continued, are emails between Victoria and Richard Hayes discussing the arrangement. Using coded language, yes, but clear enough. And these are testimonies from 12 employees who were exploited to cover the workload of employees who didn't exist. She looked at Darius, one of those employees is here. Darius Monroe. He's been with this company for 18 months. I'd like the board to hear his story. Every head turned toward Darius. His mouth went dry. Evelyn had warned him this might happen, but warning and reality were different things. 9 powerful people staring at him. Victoria Kane's lawyers taking notes, the entire future of the company potentially hinging on what he said next. He walked to the front of the room, stood next to Evelyn, looked out at the board. "My name is Darius Monroe," he began. His voice was quieter than he intended. He cleared his throat, started again. "My name is Darius Monroe. I'm an IT systems engineer. Was. Now I'm Senior Director of Operations as of this morning." He could feel their judgment, their skepticism. A black man in an ill-fitting suit claiming he'd been exploited. 18 months ago, I was hired to join a team of 5 IT specialists. On my first day, I discovered I was the only specialist. The other 4 didn't exist. They were names on a payroll sheet, but the work was real. Server maintenance, network security, emergency calls at 2 a.m. Someone had to do it. He paused, looked at Victoria. She stared back, expression neutral. "So I did it. Worked 18-hour days, 6 days a week, missed my daughter's school events, missed her doctor's appointments. Skipped meals to make rent, and every quarter Richard Hayes told me I wasn't performing well enough for a raise. Told me my error rate was too high. Told me I lacked initiative." His voice was stronger now, steadier. "My real error rate was 0.7%. Industry standard is 6%. My uptime was 99.3%. The highest in company history, but Richard's report said I was at 76% performance. Not good enough for promotion, not good enough for the salary I deserved." He pulled out his phone, held it up. "This is my daughter Zara. She's 7 years old. 3 years ago, she was diagnosed with childhood leukemia. It's in remission now, but she needs monthly checkups, $420 each. Last week, I asked Richard Hayes for 4 hours off to take her to her appointment. He denied it. In front of my colleagues, told me if I wanted part-time work, I should find another company." One of the board members, a woman named Patricia Chen, leaned forward. "Why didn't you report this?" To who? Darius met her eyes. "Richard was my manager. HR reported to Richard. The system was designed to protect him, not me. I'm a 45-year-old black man in a tech company. I've seen what happens to people who make waves. They get fired for performance issues or cultural fit or any of the other words we use to avoid saying we got rid of someone who inconvenienced us." Silence. "But here's what Ms. Harper showed me yesterday." Darius pulled out the financial records Evelyn had given him. 4 ghost employees in my department, $92,000 each, $368,000 a year, times 18 months. That's $552,000 stolen while I was paid $38,000. He set the papers on the table. Victoria Kane approved every single one of those ghost employees. Her signature is on the documents. Her accounts received the wire transfers. This isn't circumstantial. This is theft. From me. From 11 others like me. From this company. From everyone who trusted that the people at the top were doing their jobs with integrity. Victoria stood abruptly. "This is slander. I've never—" "Sit down, Victoria!" Robert Morrison's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Mr. Monroe, continue." Darius looked at the chairman, then at Evelyn. She gave him the smallest nod. "I don't want revenge," Darius said quietly. "I want accountability. I want a company where my daughter won't have to grow up in a world where working hard means nothing if you're not in the right position or the right demographic or connected to the right people." He gestured to Evelyn. "Ms. Harper came to my house 2 nights ago. Let herself in, started washing my dishes. I thought she was insane, but you know what she was really doing. She was showing me that she was willing to step down from this pedestal. Look me in the eye and admit her company had failed me." His voice strengthened. "That's leadership. Not hiding behind lawyers and PowerPoints. Not making excuses, taking responsibility. Victoria Kane has done nothing but deflect and attack. You want to know the difference? That's the difference." He stepped back. "That's all I have to say." The silence in the room was absolute. Robert Morrison looked at Victoria. "Do you have anything to add?" Victoria's composure had cracked. Her face was red. "This is a witch hunt. You're taking the word of a—" She caught herself. The word of one employee over a board member with 6 years of service. "One employee," Patricia Chen pulled out her own tablet. I've been reading the testimonies Ms. Harper sent us. There are 12 employees, all with documentation, all with similar stories. She looked at Victoria. I've known you for 4 years, Victoria. I've trusted you. But these wire transfers, your signature on these approvals, how do you explain them? They're taken out of context, misrepresented. Then provide the context. Robert Morrison's voice was ice. Explain to this board why $2.1 million from company accounts ended up in your personal banking. Victoria looked around the table, saw the skepticism, the doubt, the realization that her allies were reconsidering. I want to call for a vote, she said. Immediate termination of Evelyn Harper for mismanagement and false accusations. Seconded, said one of the board members who'd been nodding along earlier. Robert looked at Evelyn. You have the right to respond. Evelyn stood. She didn't look angry, just tired, disappointed. I accept full responsibility for the culture that allowed this to happen. I should have been more present, more aware, more connected to the people doing the actual work. She looked at each board member. But I'm asking you to consider what you're voting for. Victoria wants my head because I exposed her crimes. She wants to return to business as usual, where the numbers look good on paper but the people creating those numbers are being exploited. She clicked to a new slide. Photos. The 12 employees she'd found. Gloria in her custodial uniform, Carlos in the warehouse, Marcus with his prosthetic leg, Darius with Zara. These are the people Victoria stole from. These are the people this company failed. You can vote to remove me. That's your right. But if you do, you're telling them that their suffering doesn't matter. That the people at the top can commit crimes with impunity as long as the quarterly reports look good. She paused. Let it sink in. Or you can vote to investigate. Vote to hold accountable the person who actually committed these crimes. Vote to rebuild a company that doesn't sacrifice its people for profit. Robert Morrison called for the vote. All in favor of terminating Evelyn Harper, raise your hand. 3 hands went up. Victoria and her 2 closest allies. All in favor of a full independent investigation into Victoria Kane's conduct with immediate suspension pending results. 6 hands, a clear majority. Victoria stood so fast her chair tipped backward. This is a mistake. You're destroying this company. No, Robert Morrison said quietly. We're saving it. Security will escort you out. Your access is revoked effective immediately. 2 hours later, Darius sat in Evelyn's office. The building had emptied out, just the 2 of them and the city lights below. You did well in there, Evelyn said. Better than well. You changed minds. I thought I was going to throw up. She smiled. Me too. Every time I have to speak to the board. Darius looked at her. Really looked. The CEO mask was gone. She just looked exhausted, human. What happens now? He asked. Now the investigation proceeds. FBI's already been contacted. Victoria and Richard will likely face criminal charges. The company will face scrutiny. Stock might take a hit, but we'll survive. And the 12, back pay will be processed by Friday. Promotions effective immediately, and the oversight committee starts Monday. Darius nodded. Let that sink in. Friday he'd have $96,000. Money that could change everything. But more than that, he'd have his dignity back, his worth recognized, his daughter able to see that doing the right thing even when it's terrifying matters. His phone buzzed. Rachel, Zara wants to know if you're okay. She had a dream you were sad. He smiled despite himself. His daughter's intuition never failed. Tell her I'm good, better than good. I'll explain tomorrow. Evelyn was watching him. Your daughter? Yeah, she worries. She loves you, that's clear. She's all I have. No, Evelyn's voice was firm. She's not all you have anymore. Now you have a position that values you, colleagues who respect you, and... She hesitated. A friend, if you want one. Darius met her eyes, saw the vulnerability there, the loneliness, the woman who'd built an empire but forgotten how to let anyone inside the walls. I'd like that, he said quietly. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Evelyn stood, walked to her desk, pulled out a folder. There's something else. Something I found today that you need to know about. She handed him the folder. Inside more financial records, but these weren't about him. They were about the other departments, the other areas where Victoria's influence had spread. "How deep does this go?" he asked. "I don't know yet, but Darius—" She looked at him seriously. "I need your help finding out. You know what exploitation looks like from the inside. You can spot the patterns I'd miss. Will you help me?" It was a simple question, but it carried weight. She wasn't just offering him a job. She was offering him purpose, a chance to make sure no one else went through what he had. He thought about Zara, about the butterfly drawing, about Naomi's voice in his head saying that doing good work mattered, that integrity mattered, that standing up mattered even when it was hard. "Yeah," he said. "I'll help." Evelyn's relief was visible. "Thank you. But on one condition." "Name it." "You have dinner with me and Zara this weekend, real dinner, at our place, nothing fancy, just—" He struggled for the words, "just being human together." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. She nodded, not trusting her voice. "Good," Darius said. "She's been asking about you. About the butterfly lady." "The butterfly lady? That's what she calls you. The pretty lady who draws butterflies." Evelyn laughed, but it was watery. "I like that, better than CEO." They left the office together, took the elevator down, walked out into the Atlanta night. The parking lot was nearly empty. Just Evelyn's Tesla and Darius's old Civic under the broken streetlight. "That your car?" Evelyn asked. "Yeah, it's not much, but it runs, mostly." "Darius, you're about to be making $115,000 a year. Get a new car." He looked at the Civic, at the butterfly drawing visible through the windshield, at the photo of Naomi tucked in the visor. "Maybe," he said, "but not yet. This car got me through the hard times. Feels wrong to abandon it now." Evelyn understood, didn't push. "See you Monday," she asked. "Monday, 8 a.m. I'll be the one in the office that still smells like new furniture." She smiled. "I'll find you." Darius drove home through quiet streets, windows down, despite the chill. When he pulled into his apartment complex, he sat in the car for a moment, looked at the butterfly drawing, at Naomi's photo. "We did it, baby," he whispered. "We survived." Inside, he found Zara asleep on the couch, Rachel dozing in the chair beside her. He gently woke his sister. "Everything okay?" she whispered. "Better than okay. I'll tell you tomorrow. Go home. Get some sleep." After Rachel left, Darius carried Zara to her bed, tucked her in. She stirred slightly. "Daddy, I'm here, baby girl. Are you still tired?" He thought about it. About 18 months of exhaustion so deep it became his default state. About believing he had to choose between his daughter and survival. "No, baby girl," he said, and realized it was true. "I'm not tired anymore. I'm finally awake." Zara smiled in her sleep. "Good, because tomorrow's Saturday. Can we go to the park?" "Yeah, we can go to the park. We can do anything you want. Anything. Anything that doesn't cost more than $20. He grinned. "I'm not rich yet, kiddo." "But you're happy. That's better than rich." Out of the mouths of children. "Yeah, baby, that's exactly right." She rolled over, content. Darius kissed her forehead and left the door-cracked nightlight glowing. In the kitchen, he opened his laptop. The back pay check wouldn't clear until Friday, but he could start planning. Medical bills paid off. Security deposit on a better apartment, maybe. Something with a bedroom big enough for Zara to have friends over. A real savings account for her future. And on Monday, he'd start the real work, finding the others. The people still trapped in the system that had almost destroyed him, making sure they found their way out. His phone buzzed. A text from Evelyn. "Thank you for today, for your courage, for reminding me why I built this company in the first place." He smiled, typed back. "Thank you for seeing me, for caring, for washing my dishes. 3 dots. Then those dishes were really dirty. You should work on that." Darius laughed out loud. The CEO of Thompson Tech had just sent him an emoji. The world was definitely changing. He walked to Zara's room, stood in the doorway watching his daughter sleep. 7 years old. Still believing in magic butterflies and wishes. Still believing that being really, really nice to people mattered. Maybe she was right. Maybe that's how the magic worked. Not through spells or fairy dust, but through people choosing to see each other, to care, to stand up even when it was terrifying. Evelyn Harper had washed his dishes, had knelt down to talk to his daughter, had put her entire career on the line to make things right, and Darius had walked into a boardroom and told his truth even though his hands shook and his voice cracked and everything in him screamed to stay silent and safe. That was the magic, not the butterfly, the choice to be brave, to be kind, to refuse to let the system break what mattered most. Outside his window, Atlanta slept, but Darius stayed awake a little longer. Planning, hoping, believing maybe for the first time in 3 years that tomorrow could actually be better than today. And somewhere in the darkness, if he listened carefully, he could almost hear Naomi's voice. I'm proud of you. Keep going. Keep fighting. Keep being the man I knew you were. He would. For Zara. For the 11 others. For himself. The quiet strength that had kept him alive through 18 months of exploitation. That wasn't weakness. That was survival. And now finally he could use it for something more. He could use it to rebuild, to transform, to make sure his daughter grew up in a world where doing the right thing wasn't punished but celebrated, where magic butterflies weren't just wishes, they were promises kept. Monday morning, 8:15 a.m. Darius stood in front of the bathroom mirror in his new apartment adjusting his tie. The face looking back at him was different from the one he'd seen 3 months ago. Same features, but the exhaustion had faded from around his eyes. The constant tension in his jaw had eased. He looked rested, maybe even happy. "Daddy, you're going to be late," Zara's voice carried from the kitchen. He smiled, checked his watch, the new one Evelyn had given him after his first month as senior director of operations. Simple, elegant, inscribed on the back for seeing what others missed. EH. The new apartment was in a better neighborhood. 2 bedrooms, actual closet space, a kitchen where more than one person could stand comfortably. Zara's room had butterflies painted on one wall. Her choice, obviously. She'd spent an entire Saturday with Evelyn planning the design, the two of them giggling over paint samples like they'd known each other for years. Darius grabbed his jacket and walked into the kitchen. Zara sat at the table already dressed for school eating cereal. Her backpack, new, not the worn hand-me-down from before, sat by the door. "Morning, baby girl. You have that meeting today, right, with all the people? Smart kid, too smart sometimes." "Yeah, the oversight committee presentation." "Are you nervous?" Darius thought about it. 3 months ago, the idea of presenting to the board would have terrified him. Now it still made him anxious, but it was manageable, purposeful. "A little, but nervous is okay. Means it matters." Zara nodded sagely like she was 45 instead of 7. "Ms. Evelyn says you're the bravest person she knows." "Ms. Evelyn talks about me all the time." Zara grinned. "She came to my school for career day last week, told everyone about how you saved the company." Darius felt his chest tighten. "I didn't save anything, baby. I just told the truth. That's what heroes do, Daddy." The drive to Thompson Tech took 20 minutes now instead of 45. The new apartment was closer, the new car, a modest Honda Accord, nothing fancy, didn't break down every other week. Small changes, but they added up to a life that felt less like survival and more like actual living. Wesley was still at the security desk. The old man's face broke into a genuine smile when Darius walked in. "Monroe, or should I say Mr. Director, sir? It's still Darius West. Heard about what you're doing. The oversight committee. The new policies." Wesley lowered his voice. "My nephew works in the warehouse. Says things are different now. Better. That's because of you. It's because of a lot of people. Maybe, but you started it." Darius rode the elevator to the 5th floor executive level, still strange to have access, and walked past offices that used to feel impossibly distant. Now they were just rooms, and the people in them just people. Powerful, yes, but not untouchable. His office was modest compared to Evelyn's, but it had a window, a real desk, a door that closed. On the wall framed Zara's butterfly drawing, the original one she'd given him that night. Purple and gold wings, magic butterflies that grant wishes. He set down his briefcase and pulled up the presentation for today's board meeting. 3 months of work condensed into 40 slides. The new oversight committee structure, the independent audit results, the 12 employees who'd been found compensated promoted, and the uncomfortable truth they'd only scratched the surface. His phone rang. Evelyn. Morning. You ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be. You. Terrified. She laughed, but he could hear the tension underneath. 3 board members are still loyal to Victoria. They're going to fight every recommendation. Let them fight. We have the data. Data doesn't always win, Darius. You know that. He did. But he also knew something else. Data plus 12 human stories that wins. See you in the conference room. 10 a.m. 3 months had changed the boardroom. The same table, same chairs, but different energy. Robert Morrison sat at the head, but his posture was more open. Patricia Chen smiled when Darius entered. Even the skeptics looked curious rather than hostile. Gerald Hoffman's empty seat remained. A reminder. Evelyn stood at the front, Darius beside her. Gloria Patterson, Carlos Mendoza, and Marcus Webb sat in chairs along the wall, witnesses, supporters, living proof. Thank you for coming, Evelyn began. 3 months ago, this board voted to investigate systemic exploitation within Thompson Tech. Today, we're presenting our findings and recommendations. She clicked to the first slide. Numbers, cold, undeniable. Total amount embezzled $3.4 million. Number of employees affected 47, not 12, 47. Murmurs around the table. Even the skeptics looked surprised. Evelyn continued. Victoria Kane and Richard Hayes were the architects, but they had help. 6 department heads participated. 23 supervisors knew and said nothing. The system wasn't broken. It was designed this way. She clicked to the next slide. Photos of employees, names, stories. Janet Torres, accounts payable, paid minimum wage while her supervisor billed her work at $45 an hour for 6 years. She's a single mother of 3, couldn't afford her son's asthma medication. Next slide. Marcus Webb, facilities, Army veteran, Purple Heart, worked with a prosthetic leg while his supervisor pocketed disability accommodations budget meant for proper equipment. Next slide. Next story. Next face. 47 times. By slide 20, Patricia Chen was wiping her eyes. 2 other board members looked sick. Even the skeptics had stopped whispering. This isn't just theft, Evelyn said, her voice hard. This is systemic abuse. And it happened because we, this board, this leadership, created a culture where quarterly profits mattered more than the people creating them. One of the remaining skeptics, a man named Thomas Bradford, raised his hand. Ms. Harper, with all due respect, you're painting this as a leadership failure. But these were individual bad actors. We can't monitor every supervisor in every department. You're right. Evelyn didn't flinch. We can't monitor everyone, but we can create systems that make exploitation harder to hide. Which brings me to our recommendations. She nodded at Darius. His turn. He stood. Clicked to the next section of slides. The Oversight Committee proposes 5 major changes. Darius began. First, mandatory independent audits. Quarterly, every department, no exceptions. Slide. Graphics showing the audit structure. Second, anonymous reporting system. Employees can report concerns without fear of retaliation. Reports go directly to the Oversight Committee, not through management chains. Another slide. The reporting workflow. Third, performance reviews validated by peers and subordinates, not just supervisors. If a manager claims an employee is underperforming, the data has to support it. He paused. Let that sink in. Fourth, wage transparency. Every position has a published pay range. No more secret negotiations. No more people doing the same work for vastly different compensation. Thomas Bradford interrupted. That's going to make us non-competitive. We'll lose talent to companies that can offer more. We're already losing talent. Darius said calmly. Our turnover was 40% before these changes. It's now 8%. People stay when they're treated fairly, when they trust the system. He clicked to the final recommendation. 5th employee representation on this board, 2 seats, elected by employees, with full voting rights. The room erupted. 3 board members started talking at once. Thomas stood up. Absolutely not. Employees don't have the expertise to make board-level decisions. Neither did I when I joined this board, Patricia Chen said quietly. I was a marketing VP, learned everything on the job. Why can't employees do the same? Because it's a conflict of interest. How? Darius's voice cut through the argument. All eyes turned to him. How is it a conflict of interest for the people most affected by this company's decisions to have a voice in making them? Thomas sputtered. It's not standard practice. Neither was embezzling $3.4 million, but that happened. Darius kept his voice level. Standard practice created the environment where 47 people were exploited. Maybe it's time for new standards. Robert Morrison raised his hand. Silence fell. Mr. Monroe, Ms. Harper, give us the room. 15 minutes. Darius and Evelyn stood in the hallway outside. Gloria, Carlos, and Marcus joined them. No one spoke. What was there to say? Either the board would accept the recommendations or they'd water them down into meaningless gestures. You did good in there, Gloria said to Darius. Stood your ground. Learned from the best. He nodded at Evelyn. She smiled, but it was tight, nervous. If they reject the employee board seats, we're back to square one. Nothing fundamentally changes. Then we fight. We've been fighting, Darius. I'm tired. He looked at her. Really looked. Evelyn Harper, CEO, who'd built an empire, looked exhausted. 3 months of investigations, confrontations, board battles. She'd lost weight. The gray in her hair had spread. The cost of doing the right thing was visible in every line of her face. Hey. He touched her arm gently. You don't have to do this alone anymore. That's the whole point. Remember, we're in this together. Before she could respond, the boardroom door opened. Robert Morrison stood there. Come back in. The 9 board members sat in their chairs. Impossible to read their expressions. Robert Morrison remained standing. We've discussed your recommendations. Had a vote on each one. He paused. Mandatory independent audits approved unanimously. Evelyn's shoulders dropped slightly. Relief. Anonymous reporting system approved 8-1. Thomas Bradford's jaw tightened. The lone dissent. Peer-validated performance reviews approved 7-2. Wage transparency approved 6-3. Getting closer. The easy ones were done. Now came the real test. Employee board representation. Robert looked directly at Darius. This was contentious. A lot of discussion. Concerns about precedent, expertise, liability. Darius braced himself for the rejection. Approved, 5-4. The words took a second to register. Approved, 5-4. Barely, but it passed. Gloria gasped. Carlos gripped Marcus's shoulder. Evelyn closed her eyes, breathing deep. However, Robert continued, there are conditions. The employee representatives must complete board training, 6 months intensive. And they'll have voting rights on operational matters, but not on executive compensation or CEO evaluation. That's non-negotiable. We'll take it, Evelyn said immediately. Thomas stood abruptly. This is a mistake. You're opening the door to chaos, to mob rule. To what, Thomas? Patricia Chen interrupted. To accountability, to actually hearing from the people who make this company run, God forbid. Thomas grabbed his briefcase. I'm resigning from this board, effective immediately. I won't be part of this experiment. He walked out. The door closed behind him with a heavy thunk. Robert Morrison didn't look upset. Anyone else? The other skeptic, a quiet woman named Linda Hartwell, shook her head. I'll stay, but I reserve the right to say I told you so if this fails. Noted. Robert looked at Darius and Evelyn. You have 6 months to implement these changes. We'll reconvene quarterly for progress reports. Don't make us regret this. That afternoon, Thompson Tech held a company-wide town hall. Every employee, every department, 200 people packed into the cafeteria, another 100 watching via video feed. Evelyn stood at the podium, Darius beside her, the 12 original victims in the front row. 3 months ago, Evelyn began, I stood in front of some of you and admitted that this company had failed you, that we'd created a system where good people suffered while bad people profited. Today I'm here to tell you what we're doing about it. She went through the 5 changes. With each one, the energy in the room shifted. Skepticism became interest. Interest became hope. But words are cheap, Evelyn continued, so let me introduce you to the people making sure these aren't just words. The Employee Oversight Committee. She gestured to the front row. One by one they stood. Gloria Patterson, Custodial Services, now Facilities Director. Applause. Gloria waved, tears in her eyes. Carlos Mendoza, Warehouse, now Logistics Manager. More applause. Carlos looked stunned. Marcus Webb, Maintenance, now Veterans Outreach Coordinator. The applause grew louder. Marcus stood tall, prosthetic leg visible. Purple heart evident in his bearing. Evelyn went through all 12, then paused. And chairing this committee, Darius Monroe. Some of you know him, most of you don't. 3 months ago, he was an IT technician being paid $38,000 to do the work of 4 people. Today, he's Senior Director of Operations, but more importantly, he's the reason we're all standing here. She looked at Darius, nodded. He stepped to the microphone, 200 faces staring at him. 6 months ago, this would have been impossible. Now it was just necessary. I'm not going to give you a speech about hope or change or any of that, Darius said. I'm just going to tell you the truth. For 18 months, I was invisible in this company. I worked myself to exhaustion, missed my daughter's life, believed I wasn't good enough because that's what the system told me. He paused. But I was good enough. I was excellent. The system was lying, and if it was lying to me, it was lying to others. 47 others, as we found out. Maybe more we haven't found yet. Another pause. So here's what I'm asking. If you're being exploited, if something feels wrong, if you're working twice as hard for half as much, tell us. Anonymous line, direct email, walk into my office, I don't care. Tell someone. Because silence protects the people hurting you. Speaking up protects everyone else. He scanned the crowd, saw people nodding, saw phones out recording, saw recognition in faces that had probably been invisible too. This company isn't perfect. It won't be perfect tomorrow or next month or next year. But it can be better. It will be better because we're done accepting exploitation as the cost of employment. The applause started slowly, then built. Within seconds, 200 people were on their feet. Standing ovation. Phones held high, capturing the moment. Darius didn't smile, didn't wave, just nodded once. Acknowledgement. Respect. Later, Evelyn found him in his office. He was staring out the window at the Atlanta skyline, lost in thought. You okay? She asked. Yeah, just processing. You changed minds in there, changed hearts. Maybe, or maybe people were just waiting for permission to hope. Evelyn sat in the chair across from his desk. They'd done this often over the past 3 months. End-of-day conversations, processing the battles, planning the next steps. Somewhere along the way it had become routine, comfortable. Zara asked me something yesterday, Evelyn said quietly. Yeah, what? She asked if I was going to be her new mom. The words hung in the air. Darius turned from the window. What did you say? I told her that I love being part of her life, that families can look different ways. Evelyn's voice wavered. But Darius, I wanted to say yes. I wanted to tell her there's nothing I want more than to be part of your family. And that terrified me. Darius crossed the room, sat in the chair next to her, not across, close enough to matter. Why did it terrify you? Because I've never wanted anything this much. Because the thought of losing you and Zara is unbearable. She looked at him, vulnerable and open. Because I'm in love with you and I don't know what to do with that. Darius's breath caught. They'd been dancing around this for weeks. Dinners at his apartment, Zara calling Evelyn whenever something exciting happened at school. The way Evelyn's face lit up when she saw them. The way his chest ached when she left. "I'm in love with you too," he said quietly. "You are completely, terrifyingly, absolutely." He took her hand. "I love that you washed my dishes, that you stood up to the board for people you'd never met, that you taught Zara how to paint butterflies, that you let yourself be vulnerable when everything in your world tells you to stay armored." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be someone's partner. I've spent my whole adult life alone." "So have I. Since Naomi died." Darius squeezed her hand. "But maybe that's okay. Maybe we figure it out together. Make mistakes. Learn. Build something new. What about Zara? What if she gets attached and I mess this up? She's already attached. Has been since the night you drew butterflies with her." Darius smiled. "And you're not going to mess it up. You're going to try your best. Some days will be good, some will be hard. That's what family is." Evelyn leaned forward, rested her forehead against his. "I want this, want you. Want Zara, want the messy, complicated, beautiful thing you're offering." Darius kissed her then, gentle, sure, full of promise and possibility and the quiet certainty that some risks were worth taking. When they pulled apart, Evelyn was smiling, really smiling, the kind that reached her eyes and made her look 10 years younger. "So what now?" she asked. "Now you come to dinner. Tonight. Zara's making spaghetti. Well, I'm making it. She's supervising. I'd love that." 6 p.m. Evelyn stood outside Darius's apartment holding a bouquet of flowers and feeling absurdly nervous. She'd negotiated million-dollar deals, faced down hostile boards, rebuilt a company from the ground up, but standing here about to have dinner with a 7-year-old and the man she loved. Her hands were shaking. The door opened before she could knock. Zara stood there grinning, wearing a purple dress and butterfly clips. "Ms. Evelyn, you came. I promised, didn't I?" Zara grabbed her hand, pulled her inside. "Daddy burned the garlic bread, but the spaghetti is good. I tasted it. Come see." The apartment smelled like tomato sauce and slightly charred bread. Darius stood in the kitchen looking flustered but happy, wearing an apron that said, "World's Best Dad." "Before you say anything," he started. The smoke alarm only went off once. Evelyn laughed, really laughed. "I brought wine and flowers. Should I have brought a fire extinguisher? Funny, very funny." Dinner was chaotic. The spaghetti was actually good. The garlic bread was crunchy but edible. Zara talked non-stop about her day, her friends, the science project she was planning. Evelyn listened like every word was precious. Asked questions, laughed at Zara's jokes. Darius watched them together and felt something settle in his chest. Peace, the kind Naomi used to create just by existing. Different, yes, but real. After dinner, Zara insisted on showing Evelyn her room. The butterfly wall, the books organized by color, the photo of Naomi on her nightstand smiling in the sunlight. "That's my mommy," Zara said matter-of-factly. "She's in heaven. But Daddy says she can still see us." Evelyn knelt down next to the photo. "She's beautiful. You look like her. Daddy says I have her smile and her stubbornness." Zara giggled. "Your daddy's a smart man." Zara was quiet for a moment, then, "Do you think Mommy would like you?" The question landed softly but carried weight. Evelyn looked at Naomi's photo, at the woman who'd loved Darius first, who'd given him this incredible child, who'd died too young, too suddenly. "I hope so," Evelyn said honestly. "I hope she'd see that I love your daddy very much, and that I love you too." Zara studied her with those two wise 7-year-old eyes. Then she reached for something under her pillow, the stuffed bear she'd lent Evelyn 3 months ago. "Mr. Buttons." "You can keep him," Zara said. "For real this time. Because you're family now." Evelyn's vision blurred with tears. She pulled Zara into a hug, held her tight. Thank you, sweetheart. I'll take very good care of him. Later, after Zara was in bed, Darius and Evelyn sat on the couch, close but not touching, processing the evening. She asked me to keep Mr. Buttons, Evelyn said quietly. I heard. That's big. She's never given him away permanently before. What if I'm not ready for this? What if I let her down? Darius took her hand. You won't. But even if you mess up sometimes, that's okay. That's being human. Zara knows that. Evelyn leaned her head on his shoulder. I've never felt like this. Like I belong somewhere. Like I'm home. You are home. With us. If you want to be. I want to be. More than anything. They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, Atlanta hummed with its usual chaos. But inside this small apartment, everything was still. Peaceful. Right. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution article dropped the next morning. Front page. Thompson Tech CEO accused of retaliation, former executive claims whistleblower setup. Victoria Kane's photo, looking professional, concerned, wronged. Her quotes were carefully crafted. Evelyn Harper needed a scapegoat for her financial mismanagement. She targeted me and Richard Hayes because we'd raised concerns about her spending. Then she found a disgruntled employee willing to fabricate accusations in exchange for a promotion. The article quoted anonymous sources within Thompson Tech, referenced the sudden promotions of 12 employees, questioned the timing, planted seeds of doubt. By noon, it was everywhere. Business news, social media, Reddit threads dissecting every detail. Darius sat in his office reading the coverage, feeling cold anger build in his chest. Not rage, something colder, more calculated. His phone rang. Gloria Patterson. You seeing this? Yeah. She's calling us liars, calling you a liar. We can't let this stand. We won't. One by one the others called. Carlos, Marcus, all 12 members of the Oversight Committee, all angry, all ready to fight. At 2 p.m. Evelyn called an emergency meeting. The 12 committee members gathered in the conference room. Phones buzzing, anger palpable. We have options, Evelyn said. We can issue a corporate statement. We can release the evidence publicly. We can sue her for defamation. Or, Darius said quietly, we let her keep talking. Everyone turned to stare at him. Hear me out. Victoria's playing defense. She's scared. Every word she says publicly, that's evidence. Every interview recorded, every claim disprovable. Let her dig her own grave. Marcus Webb shook his head. Meanwhile, she's destroying our credibility, making us look like we fabricated everything. She's making us look like victims who got lucky, Gloria added, like we didn't earn these positions. Then we prove we earned them, Darius said. Not with press releases, with results, with the Oversight Committee's first quarterly report, with data showing the changes are working, with testimonies from employees who weren't part of the original 47 but who've benefited from the new system. He stood, walked to the whiteboard, started writing. Victoria's story, Evelyn's a bad CEO who needed scapegoats. We're liars who got promoted for fabricating charges. He drew a line. Our story, the system was broken, we fixed it, here's the proof. He looked at the committee. Which story sounds better with 6 months of data backing it up? Evelyn was watching him with something like pride. You're saying we respond with the quarterly report, make it public. I'm saying we respond with everything. Full transparency, every piece of evidence, every testimony, every result. We don't just defend ourselves, we show the world what accountability actually looks like. Carlos leaned forward. That's risky. If we go public with everything, we're opening the company to scrutiny. Stock might tank, lawsuits might follow. Better than letting Victoria control the narrative, Gloria said. Better than letting people think we're liars. The discussion continued for an hour. Arguments, counter-arguments, but slowly consensus built. They would go public, full transparency, let the evidence speak. That evening, Evelyn and Darius worked late preparing the release. Every document, every testimony, every piece of evidence Victoria claimed didn't exist. They compiled it into a single comprehensive report. This is either brilliant or career suicide, Evelyn said, staring at the final document. 200 pages, every truth laid bare. It's the right thing to do, that has to be enough. At midnight, they published it, not through corporate PR channels, directly, company websites, social media, email to every major news outlet, subject line, "The Truth About Thompson Tech." Then they waited. The response was immediate. Within hours, the document had been downloaded 10,000 times, 20,000, 50,000. Journalists started calling, not for sound bites, for interviews, for details. They'd actually read the report, seen the evidence. By morning, the narrative had shifted. Bloomberg, Thompson Tech's transparency report sets new standard for corporate accountability. NPR, when a CEO admits failure, the Thompson Tech story. Even the Atlanta Journal-Constitution walked back their initial coverage. New evidence supports Thompson Tech whistleblowers, questions raised about Kane's claims. Victoria tried to respond, called more interviews, but now reporters were asking harder questions, confronting her with evidence. Her carefully crafted story started crumbling. 3 days after the release, the FBI announced formal charges. Victoria Kane and Richard Hayes. Fraud, embezzlement, wire fraud. Combined, they faced 20 years. But the real victory wasn't the charges. It was what happened inside Thompson Tech. Applications flooded in, good candidates, talented people who'd been watching, waiting to see if the company meant what it said about change. Now they believed. Current employees started using the anonymous reporting line. Not for major exploitation, though some of that came through too, but for smaller issues. Supervisor playing favorites, unclear promotion criteria, wage discrepancies. Problems that festered in silence were now being addressed. 6 weeks after the transparency report, Darius was invited to speak at the National Urban League's annual conference. 500 attendees, business leaders, community organizers, people trying to create change in their own spheres. He almost said no. Public speaking on that scale still terrified him. But Evelyn convinced him. Your story matters, not just for Thompson Tech, for everyone fighting systems that seem unbeatable. So he went, flew to Washington, D.C., Evelyn and Zara with him. Made it a family trip, showed Zara the monuments, let her see that her dad was someone worth listening to. The conference hall was massive, 500 people, cameras, media. Darius stood backstage, hands shaking, wondering what he'd been thinking. Zara, continue 1236, appeared beside him, holding his hand. You're going to be great, Daddy. How do you know? Because you're going to tell the truth, and the truth is always brave. When his name was called, Darius walked onto that stage, stood at the podium, looked out at 500 faces. My name is Darius Monroe, he began. 6 months ago, I was an IT technician making $38,000 a year, working 18-hour days, missing my daughter's life, believing I wasn't good enough. He paused, let the words sink in. I was wrong. I wasn't failing. The system was failing, and it took someone with power, my CEO, Evelyn Harper, to see it and care enough to fix it. He told the story, all of it, the ghost employees, the falsified reviews, the 18 months of exploitation, the night Evelyn showed up in his kitchen, the board battle, the transparency report. I'm not here to tell you I'm special, Darius said. I'm here to tell you I'm not. I'm ordinary, a father trying to provide for his daughter. And if it happened to me, it's happening to others, thousands of others, in every industry, every city, every day. Tss. He paused. Let the silence speak. But here's what I learned. Silence protects the people hurting you. Speaking up protects everyone else. And when people with power actually listen, actually care, systems can change. Not easily, not perfectly, but they can change. The applause started before he finished. 500 people on their feet, phones recording, tears on faces. Darius didn't smile, didn't wave, just nodded, once. Acknowledgement that their stories mattered too. After the speech, dozens of people approached him, shared their own stories of exploitation, asked for advice, asked how to start fighting back. He gave them the Oversight Committee's contact information. We can't fix your companies, but we can show you what worked for us, share what we learned. You're not alone. That night in the hotel room, Zara fell asleep between Darius and Evelyn. one small hand holding each of theirs, a family that didn't look traditional but felt completely right. She asked me something today, Evelyn whispered across Zara's sleeping form. What? She asked if I'd come to her school's mother-daughter dance. Darius's chest tightened. What did you say? I said yes. If she wants me there. If you're okay with it. I'm more than okay with it. He reached across, found Evelyn's hand. Naomi would want this. Would want Zara to have someone who loves her, who shows up. I'll always show up, Evelyn promised. For both of you. The cemetery was quiet on this Sunday morning. Darius and Zara walked hand in hand to Naomi's grave, Evelyn, a respectful step behind. They'd come here every month since Naomi died, but this visit felt different. Zara carried a butterfly drawing. New one more sophisticated than the ones from a year ago. Purple and gold, detailed and beautiful. Hi, Mommy, Zara said, placing the drawing on the grave. I brought you something. Mama Evelyn helped me make it. Darius knelt beside his daughter, placed his hand on the headstone. Hey, baby. Sorry it's been a few weeks. Things have been good, really good. He told Naomi about the past year, about Thompson Tech's transformation, about the 47 employees now thriving, about the employee board members Gloria and Carlos elected by their peers, about the industry attention other companies asking how to implement similar systems. And Evelyn, he said softly, I know you'd want me to be happy, to let someone in. She's good, Naomi. Good to me. Great with Zara. She's not replacing you. Nobody could. But she's family now. Evelyn stepped forward, knelt beside them. I hope you don't mind, she said to the headstone. I know I'm the interloper here, but I promise I'll take care of them, both of them, with everything I have. Zara looked between her dad and Evelyn. Mommy knows. She sent the butterflies. Remember to bring good people together. Kids and their magical thinking. But maybe Zara was right. Maybe there was something to the idea that good things found good people. That kindness attracted kindness. That choosing to be brave, choosing to care, choosing to fight for what's right, maybe that was its own kind of magic. They left the cemetery as the sun climbed higher, stopped for breakfast at Zara's favorite diner, laughed over pancakes, made plans for the week ahead. That evening back at the house, they'd moved to a house now, 3 bedrooms, backyard for the dog Zara had finally gotten. Darius found Evelyn on the back porch. She was drawing. Butterflies, of course. You okay? He asked, settling beside her. Yeah, just thinking. A year ago, I was in my office alone, realizing my company was built on exploitation. Realizing I'd failed everyone who trusted me. She set down her pencil. Now I'm here with you, with Zara, part of something real. You didn't fail everyone. You fixed it when you found out. That matters. Does it? Victoria and Richard are in prison, but how many others are still out there? How many companies are still exploiting good people? A lot, but 47 fewer because of you. And the companies calling us asking how we did it, that's ripples, that's change spreading. You can't save everyone, Evelyn, but you saved the people you could. That has to be enough. She leaned against him. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise, you just weren't paying attention. She laughed, kissed him, soft and sure and full of love. Inside they could hear Zara playing with the dog, her laughter bright and clear, the sound of a child who felt safe, loved, secure in a world that had been terrifying just a year ago. Thank you, Evelyn whispered. For what? For letting me in, for trusting me when I didn't deserve it, for teaching me what actually matters. Darius pulled her closer. You taught me something too, that speaking up matters, that systems can change, that one person caring enough can start something bigger than themselves. They sat together as the sun set over Atlanta, 2 people who'd found each other in the wreckage of a broken system, who'd chosen to fix it rather than just survive it, who'd built a family from hope and butterflies and the quiet certainty that doing the right thing even when it's terrifying was always worth it. Zara appeared in the doorway. "Are you guys being mushy again?" "Maybe," Darius said. "You want to join the mush?" She ran over, squeezed between them. "This is good mush, the best kind." And there on a back porch in Atlanta, a family sat together. Not traditional, not perfect, but real, built on truth and courage and the magic that happens when people choose love over fear, transparency over silence, and hope over resignation. Inside the house on the refrigerator hung the original butterfly drawing, purple and gold, magic butterflies that grant wishes to people who are really, really nice. The wish had come true, not through magic, through choice, through work, through the quiet strength of a man who refused to stay invisible and a woman who refused to look away. And in the growing darkness, if you listened carefully, you could almost hear Naomi's voice on the wind. "I'm proud of you, both of you. Keep going, keep fighting, keep building something beautiful." They would. For Zara, for the 47, for everyone still fighting systems that seemed unbeatable, because quiet strength, it turned out, was the most powerful force of all. And butterflies. Butterflies were just the beginning. Thompson Tech's employee oversight model had been adopted by 43 companies nationwide. Darius Monroe testified before Congress about workplace exploitation. Evelyn Harper wrote a book, The Cost of Silence: How Corporate Culture Enables Exploitation. Victoria Kane served 6 years, Richard Hayes 8. Both were ordered to pay full restitution. Gloria Patterson's daughter graduated medical school. Carlos Mendoza opened a logistics consulting firm. Marcus Webb started a nonprofit helping veterans transition to civilian work. The wedding happened on a Saturday in October. Small ceremony, 50 people. Zara as flower girl, wearing purple, of course, with butterfly clips in her hair. Rachel officiated because who else could? She'd watched them both struggle, watched them find each other, watched them build something real from wreckage. "Darius," Rachel said, standing before the assembled guests. "Do you take Evelyn to be your wife, to stand with in triumph and struggle, to be Zara's partner in raising an incredible kid?" "I do." His voice steady, strong, no hesitation. "Evelyn, do you take Darius to be your husband? To build a life that honors both who you were and who you're becoming? To be family, messy, complicated, beautiful family?" Evelyn looked at Darius, at Zara standing between them holding both their hands, at the 50 people who'd come to witness this moment. Former Thompson Tech employees, board members, the original 12 from the Oversight Committee. "I do," she said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. The reception was in the backyard of their house. String lights, butterflies decorating everything. Gloria made the cake. Carlos handled music. Marcus gave a toast that made half the guests cry. But the moment Darius would remember forever came later. After the dancing, after most guests had left, just him, Evelyn, and Zara sitting on the back porch under the stars. "So you're officially Mama Evelyn now," Zara said, swinging her legs. "Does that mean I can just call you Mama?" Evelyn's eyes filled. "You can call me whatever feels right, sweetheart." Zara thought about it. I think I'll call you Mama, because Mommy is in heaven, but Mama is here." She looked up at Evelyn. "Is that okay?" "That's perfect," Evelyn whispered. Darius pulled them both close. His daughter, his wife, his family. Built not from perfection, but from choice, from courage, from the quiet certainty that love in all its forms was worth fighting for. Inside the house on the mantel, 2 photos stood side by side. Naomi on the left, smiling in the sunlight. The 3 of them on the right, laughing at Zara's birthday party. Not replacement, addition, not forgetting, honoring, the kind of family that only exists when people are brave enough to believe in second chances. In new beginnings, in the possibility that broken things can be mended into something even stronger. 5 years after the wedding, in a house in Atlanta, A 12-year-old girl named Zara Monroe drew butterflies with her two parents, one who'd given her life, one who'd chosen her life, and believed, as she always had, in magic. The kind of magic that looks like courage, the kind that looks like love, the kind that looks like people refusing to stay silent in the face of injustice. That magic is real. It always has been. You just have to be brave enough to believe in it, and kind enough to share it. The magic was never in the butterflies. It was in the people who refused to stop believing, who chose courage over comfort, who built families from hope and truth and the quiet certainty that tomorrow could be better. That magic is yours. It always has been. You just have to be brave enough to use it.